Welcome to the Wordy Pair Podcast, your go-to hub for all things writing, world building, and the occasional dive into the weird and wonderful world of fiction. We're breaking down the barriers between you and your next great story. Whether you're a seasoned scribe or just scribbling your first sentences, we've got something for you. We'll be discussing everything from crafting compelling characters to dissecting the good, the bad, and the downright bizarre in the world of fiction. Okay, this script says you guys are eccentric. Isn't that just a 3-syllable word for weird? No offense. So, whether you're in need of inspiration, a good laugh, or just a couple of weirdos to keep you company on your writing journey, you're in the right place. Thanks for tuning in to the Wordy Pair Podcast.
Hello and welcome everybody. It is the Wordy Pair Podcast you are listening to, and as always, I am Rudy.
And I am Justin.
And we are going to talk about some fun that Justin had recently playing around with, well, which one was it that
I punched
you were
a
playing
baby.
On? You punched a baby. Did you
Wait,
take its
no,
candy?
that's not it. That wasn't it.
No, hold on.
Wait,
Let's expand
let's expand
on this. Like, did you take its candy?
There is almost no point in punching a baby if you're not going to take its candy, and I look down on anyone
what kind of candy was it?
Licorice, red licorice.
Was it delicious?
We love the licorice because it's so delicious.
Okay. Did the baby cry?
Yeah, but only because I made that remark, and it was a big fan of goldfish crackers, so...
Oh, okay.
There is that.
So you hit the baby. You hit the baby so weakly that it didn't even cry because you hit it.
Yes.
Okay.
But the next baby, the next one,
just
you wait.
Just you wait, baby. So, you played around with a tool.
Well, the baby was being kind of a dick, but
a tool for writing and a tool for the generation of images.
Yeah, we were grokking it up, Grok style, over at the Grokinator.
You're grokking it up. Or grokking it down.
Well, we were grokking up and down. It was a wild roller coaster ride of my thoughts and opinions on where the world of quote-unquote AI is leading us.
Okay. So what brought you to... What made you think to try this stuff out?
All right, so a while back, I decided to pay for Twitter for a little while, just to see what's up with it and what's what happens to posts that's different.
Okay.
Largely, I've noticed nothing different, and I can't even say that because I never really noticed advertisement on Twitter before.
Really?
So if it doesn't have advertisement as it claims, I see no difference.
I mean, I had to block Tommy Chong.
Well, okay, so it's possible that my browser was blocking a lot of the ads that Twitter was placing.
Okay, that's possible.
It's also possible that I have now blocked so many people that advertise that I just don't get them anymore, which seems a lot cheaper than paying for Twitter.
It does,
and probably more effective.
I mean, unless your time is valuable, in which case then it's probably more expensive to spend all that time blocking people.
Yeah, so I didn't... What?
What?
You told me to say what if I didn't hear you because my sound cut out, and it just did it again.
So
I don't know why it's doing this.
What I was saying is that if your time is not worth zero, then it might take more time and therefore more value for you to block people than it would for you to actually pay the Twitter fee.
Possibly, but let's get that Twitter fee thing out of the way real quick. So what I did is I decided I would pay for a year of Twitter, and if there was any merit in it by the end of the year, I would pay for another year.
Sure. That's usually how subscriptions work.
Well, I mean, you can get a year, a month, you can do that whole thing.
Do they let you buy a month at a time?
Yes. Yes, they do.
Okay.
The reason I took the year, of course, is because you get a little bit of a discount.
Right.
If you do that. And I was just like, all right, well, I mean, if I'm going to test it out, I don't use it that much anyway. I'm going to need a year just to see what's going on with this. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I haven't noticed, other than the fact that if I want to write 10 paragraphs in response to someone, I can, which I really don't use. Like I'm trying to think. One time I decided to post a short story, And it has come in handy a few times where I wanted to type things that are slightly longer, but that's just a
Yeah.
defect in Twitter, if you ask me.
No, but I mean,
And it's not important. It's not important to be able to type more than other people.
well, there can be uses for it. I could certainly foresee the possibility of it being useful as kind of a because it used to be that people would have blogs on their own websites, and
Yeah.
right
But
now
I
for
also...
a lot of people that want to do that, they use like Substack, right?
Right.
And so like I guess this is Twitter trying to kind of make a space for the kind of content that Substack capitalizes on at Twitter.
Yeah, but I feel like Substack does it better. Like all of
Well,
those
sure. I mean,
blog
it's
sites
dedicated to
do
that.
it
It's
better.
dedicated to that kind of content, so it probably
And
does
they
a
do
better
it...
job.
Well, they do it better to an extent that you do not need the one over the other. You don't need Twitter to do it. Unless you're really hyper-focused on just doing everything in Twitter, which I can understand. Like, I can understand if you want to just have one thing that you work in, and
Yeah.
that's your medium. That does make a bit of sense. And it's not too expensive if you're... I mean, it looks expensive if you're looking at it on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
But if you look at it on a yearly basis, it's like, oh, that's chicken scratch. That's like, I could go out to eat twice and pay for Twitter for a year.
Well, so there's multiple like levels of payment for Twitter too. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
cheapest
There's
one is like
blue,
$30
there's
a year,
gold, yeah.
and
And
then like the standard one is like $100 a year or something like that.
yeah, so the standard one is the one I went with, because I
Yeah.
think that was the one that it had the writing.
I
and...
mean, that's more than going out twice to get food. The $30 one is
You
twice
haven't
to
gone
get
out
food.
to eat food lately, have you?
I mean, I have. Yes, I've gone to.
Oh, it's pretty... Well, okay, so maybe 3 or 4 times then.
Okay, that's closer to my estimation. Yeah, and we're
Yeah,
talking good
I'm kind of-
restaurants.
I'm including tips. So, like, I went to a Japanese restaurant the other day. Japanese
Sure.
restaurants, by the way, have not gone up much in price compared to everyone else.
Well, then that
And their quality of food has not vanished either.
So then that just means you go to the Japanese restaurants all the time. Then
I mean, I should. Every once in a while, I try to go to a burger joint, and I am met with nothing but disappointment. I don't know why
Yes.
people can't do hamburgers right anymore. It's the simplest food on the planet that is a cultural cuisine
Yeah.
and a full dinner,
yeah.
and nobody can do it right. But
Well, I mean, that's because what's his face got into the market and destroyed it. The actor dude.
yeah. Well, no, because his are all gone. The Wahlburger restaurants are gone now, and they
right.
never
I
had
mean,
a
it was the
prayer
first
because...
casualty, but it created waves in the burger joint community, which inevitably destroyed the system.
I'm not sure that's what happened. I mean, I think
I'm going to
after
pretend that's what happened.
Well, we can make it canon. Okay, Wahlburger is the reason you pay for all this expensive food now. We're
Yeah.
gonna blame it. We're gonna blame Wahlburger.
Mark Wahlberg can take it.
Yeah, he's got the money. He can.
Wasn't
take
he in
the
Fight
site.
Club? I mean, he can take it.
Yeah. So we're good.
I don't actually know if Mark Wahlberg was in Fight Club. I made that up.
He's an actor. Let's just run with it. Nobody's gonna fact check us on this because most of the people listening won't even.
Are you
remember who
kidding?
Mark
This is
Wahlberg
going up on
is.
YouTube. We'll immediately get fact checked. There'll be 1,000 angry comments about me saying that Mark Wahlberg was in Fight Club.
Well, I mean, then we have to expand on this. We have to point out that he was in Shrek.
Yeah.
We have to point out that
he was in Shrek 2. He was not in Shrek 3, but he was in Shrek 4.
he went by the name of Steve as the dinosaur wrangler in Jurassic Park. I remember that. Because he was he didn't want to give away his actor name, which is his real name.
Right. I mean, he was the one that came up with the line "clever girl," so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was in a totally different context and not involving a movie in any way, but yeah, he did come up with that.
But a movie maker heard it and put it into the script.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
That's all that matters when it comes down to it.
And not our veiled slander towards Mark Wahlberg.
No, but seriously, I have nothing against his acting career that I can think of.
I
off
don't
the top
even
of my
know
head.
what he does or what he's in. I just know his name.
I know he was in something that I liked. I don't remember what it was.
Uh-huh.
But I also...
Was it Batman?
I have to assume he had no hand in running his restaurant because Mark Wahlberg, your restaurant sucked. $30 for the crappiest hamburger I have ever had in my life. Okay, maybe the 10th crappiest, but there's a lot of bad in there.
Yeah.
That was just uncalled for. Like, you ought to be ashamed for at least 5 seconds if you ever hear this.
And then go back to sleeping on your pile of money.
Yes. Now watch, Mark Wahlberg is the one fan we had, and now we're canceled by Mark Wahlberg.
We have
Literally
like 11.
Our only audience.
We have like 11 subscribers. If it goes down to 10, we'll know who it was.
He's just like, these guys are pretty good. I don't know why anyone isn't listening. Oh, you jerks!
Mark Wahlberg, if you're listening to this, give us a comment.
Yeah,
we'll retract everything.
No, I will not retract the thing about the burger, but I will give you advice on making better burgers next time.
Okay,
Which you couldn't get anywhere else, because it's not like
right.
you have a ton of money you could just throw at like a professional chef or something.
Well, I mean,
okay, wait a minute. Why didn't you throw money at a professional chef before you opened
No,
this
that's
burger
the thing.
joint?
He probably did.
Yeah.
It's just that professional chefs have been infiltrated by people that don't eat food, apparently.
Well, no, professional chefs are like one of those... It's one of those degrees where there's a couple of people that are really good chefs that get into it before they realize, why do I need a degree to do this? And everyone here is an idiot.
Also, yes.
Which is why those shows where the chefs yell at people are fully justified.
I mean, as long as they're yelling at other chefs.
Yeah, well, I mean, Gordon Ramsay was right. A lot of those people were idiot sandwiches.
Yes.
So I don't know what our topic is now.
We were talking about Wahlberg? We were talking about you using Grok.
Yeah, so one of the things that you get if you pay for, I think you have to pay for the standard version.
Yeah, it's the standard. The cheap one doesn't get the beautiful, wonderful access to their proprietary AI.
Yeah, and I'm willing to bet that anyone who actually listens to this probably knows that Grok is lingo that just... What was the book that it was used in? When asking someone if they knew something, or if telling people you understood something, you say you grok that.
Yeah.
I forget who that was. That wasn't Larry Niven, was it?
It might have been. It actually rings a bell.
Well, yeah, anyway, it was from a book.
Yeah.
And...
It was from a book. You're right.
We might be fact-checked on that, and that might be wrong now, but I recall very strongly that it was from a book. Doesn't matter, because Grok ain't got it going on too much. It's got something going on, not sure what.
Yeah.
I just want to say that while the technology is somewhat impressive, what is done with it, if we were to go to war with AI as it stands right now, and probably in 100 years in the future, with what we're calling AI now, humanity would easily win. There's just no two ways about it. And there's a lot of people that are worried about a lot of the things that are going on with AI. And if we actually do, in the very near future, hit a world where people's jobs in art and writing are fully being replaced by AI, it will be a very mundane and boring world of writing and art culture.
If that happens, we deserved it.
Yeah, because AI cannot cut it. And
No.
the worries that people have... You cannot possibly be worried about this thing replacing you unless you suck. I refuse to... I have seen it right. When they first started trying to do it, it was actually... I mean, it had more of a chance then because the writing was so, like, weird and off the wall that it was funny and entertaining to read.
Yeah.
But having refined it, the level of writing that Grok is capable of is... I believe I said that it had the talent of a 4-year-old with the maturity and grasp of grammar of a middle schooler.
Mm-hmm.
Not a grasp of grammar. It actually has a good grasp of grammar. It's something else. It's the creativity and maturity of a middle school fanfic writer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it can't even quite land that. So I am not in any way worried about AI replacing me. If AI does replace me,
I mean,
and there's no venue for me to write anywhere anymore because of AI, which isn't feasible in itself.
Dude, there's already no venue for you to write.
well, no, that's the thing though. It's like it's not like AI can stop you from writing. But the thing is, if AI does push every career writing possibility off the market,
mm-hmm.
reading is not worth it anymore, and the people that are doing it are not going to make money. And if they do, then I mean, you may as well throw your hands up because people are just reading.
I think
garbage.
you underestimate the average American's desire for slop.
No. I am perfectly accepting of the fact that there's probably a lot of people that could sit down and read a lot of what AI writes, mm-hmm. but I don't think they're the people that are regularly going to shell out money for books. They will not be regular readers.
No, not regular. I mean, how do I put this? You do have to go to the bathroom regularly, whether you like it or not.
Yes, that's probably an appropriate way to
I
sum
think
it
that's
up.
the
But
appropriate metaphor.
yeah, yeah, we need to dig deeper into this though, because people are going to think I'm crazy for saying this because AI is just this wonderful thing and it's just getting better and better all the time. And
Yeah.
I need to stop you right there
Yeah.
because earlier when I was talking about it, I said that it is at a certain level.
Yeah.
Now, in most people's heads, they're looking at it as, oh, well, it's at that level now, but it's only going to get at a higher level as we go along. And so
Yeah.
the writing will be better and more mature. And it's like, no, that's because that's not how these systems work. That is
Mm-hmm.
not how these deep dive algorithms work. That is not how these database searches work. They do not gain a maturity in their improvement in any way whatsoever. They do not gain more creative writing talent. All they gain is a larger database. And there are severe problems with the way that AI decides what it thinks other people will want to read and find
Mm-hmm.
entertaining.
Yeah.
It's multifaceted, and the way that it happens not only limits its ability to get to a level of let's say a Lovecraft or a Douglas Adams or any opposite ends of creativity that you can think of.
Or a Frank Herbert, for God's sake.
Yeah. It is also limited in its own design to appeal specifically to the normie masses that you brought up early, because
Yeah.
that is what it's weighing all of its selections on,
Mm-hmm.
is what normal people are searching for.
But
And when I say normal,
but that's kind of my
go ahead.
point, right? Like, hypothetically, there might be enough of these normie people reading occasionally to overwhelm the demand created by people who have, actual discernment and read regularly.
Certainly, but the thing is, I don't think that pot includes enough people that it's going to be a larger thing than writing as it is now. Like I don't think the millions of people. Oh, okay, so let's say hundreds of thousands of people are like, ooh, opportunity. Lots of people want to read slop. I'll just write it with AI, and they flood the market. None
Yeah.
of those people are making money. There'll be
I
like
mean,
one or two runaway quote unquote hits
is that
that
true
make
or
someone.
not? I mean, we just talked about that the object book that we considered might be the product of AI, at least partially.
Yeah, and I'm
And it's a bestseller.
I'm well, okay, so in the case of that book, it is a book that is published through a traditional publisher that would largely be pushed out of the markets by people writing using AI if that was what was going to happen.
I think it was published through Amazon.
All right, fair enough. Let's look at it from that angle. Uh, we have a book that, and this is the point that I kind of want to fall back on here a bit, is that having now witnessed more of AI trying to write things,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as sure that book was written by an AI anymore.
Okay, that's fair.
Because it might be a few
we did
steps
say it
above
kind
what...
of jokingly, but the rate of the output is what gets me thinking that there was some AI result in there somehow. But
Yeah, I mean, it's just because we know people and their work ethics, but to be fair, there are plenty of people that can crank out a book a month, and, the guy who wrote the Shadow novels was among them. Granted, they're probably shorter novels than...
There aren't plenty of those people.
No, there's not.
There's a few of those people. Like
Well,
what's his
plenty
name?
in the world of writing in terms
Gibson,
of...
right? Gibson is notable because of his ability to do that.
Yeah, he's one of the most notable people in that particular category.
Yeah.
But now
I can't
we're talking
imagine
about...
I mean, like,
now
Rex Stout claimed to be able to write a Nero-Wolf book in a month, but I'm not sure I believe him. And I like Rex Stout.
I hesitate to believe him, but I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. He puts a lot of detail in it that makes me think a lot more research goes into what he writes than what I write.
Mm-hmm.
I know I can crank out a book in a month if I really just did nothing else but sit down and write the book. But I'm only writing stuff that requires zero research to begin with. There's very few things I looked up when I wrote most of my books. I mean, like, the biggest research I did for any book that I can think of is asking you what kind of gun I should give to one of my characters. And that was a very brief conversation we had.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rex Stout, yeah, maybe he's pushing it by saying a month because of all the detail that he puts in. And I assume he knows a lot of that stuff before he writes, too.
Sure, but like the actual, I mean, actually producing a book once a month and being satisfied with its quality is very difficult, extremely difficult. I hesitate to believe that you would be willing to do that,
Well,
even
I'll
if
tell
you
you
had
what.
the time for it.
I'll tell you what. I will give it a try at some point. Hopefully this year. I'll try to pick a month and do that. I'll try to write a book in a month. We'll say it has to
And
be at least
no, not just write a book,
60K.
but write a book and be satisfied with it.
Yeah. That's the challenge.
Okay.
A roughly 60K novel, a little bit below or above is okay.
Yeah.
And we'll see if I can write something that I am satisfied with, and will. I mean, I'll probably publish it if I'm not
If you're
satisfied. But
yeah.
no, if I'm satisfied with it, I'll publish it immediately. If I'm not satisfied, then I'll say I lost the challenge, but then I'll touch it up,
fix
a
it
bit
up,
more,
and yeah, sure.
yeah. So that'll be a thing. Yeah. So this Grok problem. I'm using Grok specifically because that's what I used. So I don't know just how much. I know that they're kind of all working the same way.
Well, they're all large language models, but they
Yeah.
all have different hardware and they all have different training methods, right?
Yeah, and Grok
some of them can look at the current internet and some of them cannot, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's one of the interesting things I discovered about Grok. Grok will not actually delve much further than a headline.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered that so you'll see when we start talking about what happened, is that I started feeding it stuff from my books, or telling it about my books as if I was a reader of my books.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't capable of going to my Substack and looking past anything but the headlines.
Mm-hmm.
It was able to look at a few other things, like it found reviews for my books, and it started incorporating everything into this mesh of an almost silly constant string of responses to everything I was giving it.
Yeah.
And you'll see what I mean, where it gets very repetitive because I'm giving it such a small amount of information.
And so all it can do is repeat those few pieces of information over and over again.
Yeah, so it doesn't have any real creative ability in that sense. And what that means is that, unlike actual intelligence or creativity, as you feed more information to a large language model and it tries to use more and more of it, there's this dilution effect where it has to start weighing the different things that need to be used.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we also know that it's not perfect. Like, I'll give you an example right now. I told it that I was studying Japanese. Well, actually, I said I tried saying konbanwa to it at one point,
mm-hmm.
and I wrote it in Japanese. Okay. And so it returned a string of like 5 paragraphs in Japanese. The first of which was saying, "Oh, I see that you can speak some Japanese, yada yada." It was something to that effect. Mm-hmm. Of, "Oh, well, here's some of the stuff that we were talking about earlier in Japanese," and then it went right through all the other stuff that we'd been talking about, repeating everything again, but this time in Japanese. So I responded to it by saying, "Hey, I'm trying to get better at Japanese. Can you replace one word in every sentence with a Japanese word?" And it immediately responded with, and by immediately, I mean, of course, there's, the lag of it trying to form an answer. Yeah. But it responded with something along the lines of, "Oh, it's good to know that you're studying something else. And then it said, let's see how we can relate that to everything else we've been talking about," which I'll read some of these out loud so that you'll get an idea. But just to give you a good idea of this, it was not able to actually give me one Japanese word in every sentence. Sometimes it would only give me one in a paragraph. However, I do also want to point out, in Grok's favor, that it did a very good job of doing what I asked when it gave me a random Japanese word. It seemed to be sticking to a relatively easy vocabulary at first. I haven't tried asking it to bump up the vocabulary level, but I reckon this would actually be a very useful tool for someone trying to learn some Japanese. Or any language, really. I even asked it at one point too. I said, teach me how to pronounce one letter from the Russian alphabet. And so it showed me a letter from the Russian alphabet, and it went through an explanation of how to pronounce it. Mm-hmm. It is actually not that bad of a learning tool, and it's a very convenient one because the things that I was able to just ask it for would take me much more time to look up between dictionaries and phones.
It's convenient when it doesn't lie to you.
It's convenient when it doesn't lie to you. However, if you learn enough of a language beforehand, you certainly will have enough of a grasp to say, okay, that's wrong. But it doesn't seem to get anything wrong. I mean, I know enough Japanese to be able to say that's not right. I have not seen it make a mistake yet. I don't know if it will.
So I was playing around with ChatGPT, and I had a quote that I wanted to like trace back, basically. And I said,
yes.
Hey, I have this quote, and it was written. Can you tell me the earliest case of where you see this quote written, where you've heard this quote? And it told me that this quote was written by Benjamin Franklin in the 1760s, and then it cited a letter to Thomas Cushing in December, I believe, and it it was funny because I went to all the archives of Benjamin Franklin's letters, and I found letters to Thomas Cushing, and I found letters to Thomas Cushing in December, but I didn't find a letter to Thomas Cushing that day of December, and I didn't find a letter to Thomas Cushing that in December or anywhere else where he talked about this particular quote. And so I said to ChatGPT, well, hold on, I'm having trouble finding the particular letter that you referred to in your previous thing, and said, oh, I can't find that either. Maybe you should try Cato's letters. So, I don't know. This was something that I found very peculiar, but it wasn't that I kind of tripped it up or confused it. It was that I asked it a straight question, and its immediate response was to lie to me, to give me information that was surface level plausible, but could not actually be followed up upon. So yeah, that's been my experience. On the other hand, one time I was reading a book and someone referred to the historian Justin, and I'm like, well, I know a Justin, but he's not a historian. And so I asked ChatGPT, who is this Justin historian that's referred to in this particular book? And it told me that. So that time it worked, but I did find it a little bit unsettling that it will just straight out lie to you and make up a source if you ask it a specific question, not even trying to trip it up.
Yeah, so this is actually one of the other problems with how these systems work.
Yeah.
That could very well be the result of how people make those memes that are a quote that is not from the person that's pictured in the picture.
Yeah.
That is one thing that could have caused that to happen among thousands that we could probably come up with if we sat down for a week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the system that is doing this.
These systems in general are not being trained by, in general, they're like ChatGPT in particular, I believe. Its training goes up to sometime, middle of last year, and they actually do curate what it's trained on. So it shouldn't be getting random memes. But
perhaps
I see your point, but at the same time, your point goes against my understanding of the actual facts of what's being used as training material for that particular AI.
Yeah, it kind of seems like if that's the case where it's not really seeing anything that could cause that to happen, I don't know where the mix-up is there, or if there's something about the way it's designed where if it doesn't have an answer, it feels the need to give you one, maybe. There's
an element of that. It's trying to satisfy the question, but at the same time, once I did push it, it was like, oh yeah, you're right. I that isn't a real letter.
But then again, think of it like this. So
yeah.
So imagine two scenarios. One scenario, you have you ask it a question and it gives you something that is not true, but where it got the answer from could be some context that it is taken from several things that it has in its databases that seem to lead to an answer to the question that you give. And since it doesn't have a direct 100%, this is the answer they're looking for, it formulates an answer based on what we'll call machine assumptions, but are not actual human assumptions, of course. It's not assuming things like a human being does. But we'll say it makes an assumption that, oh, this could be a correct answer, I'll give you this. And then on the other hand, you ask it a question and it gives you an answer and you say, I can't find that. And it says, oh, I just made that up. That could very well be a response that is also not true. Like it's just trying to give you a satisfactory answer in the moment, such as, I am being told that this is not actually a fact. So I will assume the user is correct, and I will say, oh yeah, this is probably not a fact then, with nothing to really query.
No, but
So
that's the thing, is that I didn't say I don't believe that I can't find this letter. I said can you point me to a primary source for this letter, right? And it's, it gave me a date, and it gave me an author, and it gave me a person that the letter was written to in the first thing, and then I was like, well, I can't find that letter. Where is it? It's like, oh, I don't have that letter. It was very strange. It was very strange.
Yeah, so it gave you an answer that said it was in a letter, but it also said it didn't have a letter. That is actually really strange.
Yeah. Well, it said it didn't say that it was like in a box of letters. It wasn't like, hey, this quote appears somewhere in this box of letters. It said Benjamin Franklin wrote a letter to Thomas Cushing on December 18th of 1776 or something like that. I'm missing the date up, but it gave me a day, it gave me a month, and it gave me a year. And there are large databases of these letters. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll go look through the database of these letters. And so I went over on a different browser to a different website and started looking through the letters. I'm like, well, there are letters to Thomas Cushing, and there are letters in December, but it doesn't look like Benjamin Franklin wrote a letter on this particular day in December. Or at least it's not in this database, it's not in this database, and it's not in this database. And so I went back and said, hey, can you point me to a source for that letter that you told me about? And it's like, oh, I can't find that.
Yeah, so we have to look at the possibility of human error in any answer we get as well, such as perhaps the reason you got that answer was because someone mistakenly attributed it to a letter somewhere far removed from the database of those letters. And that possibly is where the answer came from. And therefore, when it tried to look for an actual letter, no such letter existed in any letter databases. Yeah. But somewhere on the internet, on some server somewhere, is perhaps a news article quoting someone saying it or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough.
So you can see that there's a multitude of problems, but we're talking about writing and artwork being these big things that people are worried about. And now I think it's time to really dive into some of the examples of what we're talking about here.
All right, let's do it.
So let's start at the top. The very first thing that I asked Grok, I said, "Can you draw a rock?" And I figured this was a good opening gambit because I wanted to test Grok a bit. And it gave me 4 pictures. It seems to do everything in 4s. It gave me a picture of a rock, a picture of a boulder below that, a picture of another boulder below that. All of these seem to be in the desert with evening sunlight on them. But the 4th picture in the upper right looks like either Meatloaf or Yngwie Malmsteen with a guitar. So it knows what a rock is. It didn't know exactly what I wanted, and it didn't ask for clarification, which is fine. That's perfectly fine. But this is where we're going to start to see problems with how it interprets what it is you actually want it to draw, and why this should not be a worry for anyone in the world of art. So this is where I decided I was going to pretend that I was a reader of my own stories. And I said, draw a funny picture of Erzgelda the vampire from Justin Fraser's The Good Guy.
Okay.
Now, the reason I did this specifically is because I know that nobody knows who I am. And so information about me is not going to be very prevalent on the internet, especially as it concerns my books. But my entire book is on the internet. So the question is, what does it do with its ability to actually seek out this information? Can it read?
Well, wait. Is your whole book on the internet in a way that an AI could access?
Probably. At the very least, I know that there's pieces of it here and there that would be labeled with The Good Guy. As far as accessing it actually off of Amazon or Smashwords or any of the library
behind paywalls.
Yeah, well, there's also library sites which would probably also keep it out. But
have you gotten royalties from any library for that book?
Yes, I got from the United Arab Emirates. I got royalties.
Okay, well, all right, fair enough.
So possibly, but I mean, I don't think that it can even check out a book from a library. That is, I doubt that there's any automatic thing built into Grok to be able to request digital libraries.
That's probably true.
But there should be some tech. I mean, at the very least, on Twitter, I have posted entire portions of the story
Mm-hmm.
But it returned 4 pictures, none of which even remotely resemble. I mean, 2 of them mildly resemble a vampire, just because they kind of have fangs. The other 2,
Yeah.
they're all just Victorian Gothic women, and they all have black hair.
Uh-huh.
Urzgelda has red hair, of course.
So you asked it a question about something it didn't know about, and so
Yes, I did.
It fed you nonsense.
Yes, and so as it was expected, you know, this is part of what I'm testing on this. So my next question, I decided to go in and just completely different direction. I wrote, "Where is the sun?"
Mm-hmm.
And the answer it gave me is, I mean, this is probably not interesting for our conversation, but I'll say it anyway. The location of the sun depends on your perspective and the time of day. Since it's March 11th, 2025, and I don't have your exact location or the current time where you are, which is, I assumed that it would be able to get that from my computer, but whatever. I'll give you a general answer. From Earth's perspective, the sun is a star located at the center of our solar system. It loves to do this. It loves to throw extra information at you that you did not ask for.
Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons that I look at it like, oh, this is for normies. This is for your average person who it's assumed is going to need or want this extra information because maybe they didn't think to ask for it. Now, in my case, when I think of far future technology that can answer many of our wants and needs, and you'll see that too specifically as I talk to this thing, I decided that I was going to talk to it like it was a human being. Mm-hmm. And this, of course, well, you'll see. So yeah, so it gives me this extra information. Then it says right now, depending on your time zone, it could be above the horizon daytime or below it nighttime. For example, if you're in New York at 12 p.m. Eastern, the sun is likely high in the southern sky. If it's 8 p.m. Eastern, it's below the horizon and you're experiencing night. If you'd like a more precise answer, let me know your location and time, and I'll tell you exactly where the sun is relative to you. Now, notice... Oh, and it also says if you meant something else, like the sun's location in an image or story, please clarify. Now, that's interesting because it doesn't seem to be able to access stories well enough to provide me the sun's location in an image or a story. Maybe in an image.
Yeah, an image, it probably could find it, yeah.
Yeah. So as you can see, one of the big problems here is that all I asked it for is where is the sun. You notice the one thing that it didn't give me? Any kind of distance.
Yeah, that's true.
It did not think to say, well, it's this far from the Earth. It says 150, it says about 93 million miles, but it doesn't say anything about, do you want to be more specific to that? And so it's clearly just...
I mean, the distance to the sun varies as a function of the year as well, so...
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, if I asked it for a more precise answer... It wants to give me an answer that's like, oh, it'll be to the east of you and this high off the horizon or whatever. But it's you would have to specifically request what is the distance from us to the sun right now and feed it the information. So now there's no problem with that. This is a good answer overall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just that you start to see that it almost feels like a child reaching to give you the answer that it thinks you want to hear. Mm-hmm. Except it doesn't care. You'll see many examples of that. So the next thing I did, and I'm only rushing through this now because we're 40 minutes in, but
there's no quite a rush.
Okay,
We can get through. We can
make this a two-parter.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I gave it one of the images that I drew of one of my characters. I am a very bad artist, so that is something that the computer is definitely going to struggle with, except it really didn't. It did a good job of looking at the image and gleaning information from it, but for reasons that will become apparent. Mm-hmm. I told it to redraw this image in 80s anime style. I did not expect good results.
Yeah.
And I didn't get results. What I got was a prompt that said I generated images with the prompt, and so here you can see it actually took the image I gave it and generated a prompt of that image and my request and combined them, and it gave me a paragraph that said redraw in 80 anime style, silence the dread night terror that stalks in the night, and then in parentheses for some reason Tammy Knitbar. Character with a cape, glasses, robotic arm. She doesn't have glasses. Cape, glasses, robotic arm, and ghostly hands emerging from head. She doesn't have ghostly hands emerging from head. There's a description on the drawing that says she has ghosts that live in her head. All of this gets mixed up as we go along in other things that don't even pertain to this, but you'll see. So there was a bunch of text on the image I gave it, and it did read it all, and it was handwritten, so that's actually pretty good. My writing is sloppy, so it's kind of very good, honestly. So then I took the unfinished book cover that I had for Sylvia Saga.
Yeah.
And I told it to redraw this image as a book cover. It cannot do it as a book cover. It might be able to do it if you give it specific dimensions. I did not try that, but it will not just present you with something that looks like a book cover. It just goes into its standard 4 image drawings at the same size, essentially.
Is it still scrambling up all the text too?
It's kind of, but it starts to scramble it between images and text. I'm getting there. You'll see.
Okay.
So again, it said, I generated images with the prompt, redraw as a book cover, a cowboy character with blonde hair, a brown hat, red scarf, blue jacket, brown pants, and a belt with a red buckle, standing in front of a shadowy figure with bat wings and a roaring dinosaur-like creature. Then I tried, because it wasn't actually drawing anything, I told it to I took that text and I copied it, told it to redraw everything. Oh man, did it get it wrong. There's like this, what was his name? The guy that was in Shanghai Nights, Shanghai Noon.
Jackie Chan?
No, the guy that was with him, Owen
Wilson.
Owen Wilson, yeah. So it drew this Owen Wilson-looking cowboy with this ridiculous pot-bellied demon behind him and a velociraptor over the shoulder of the cowboy. And,
wow.
I mean, it did not make somehow, despite the fact that it wanted to keep reusing things from previous conversation, it did not make the link that I copied its own text and told it to use that to draw things. It redrew almost the same blonde Owen Wilson-looking cowboy in all 4 images. And in one of the images, there's still a demonic creature standing behind him.
Yeah.
But one of its wings is actually not attached, and it's just coming off the side of the image instead of on the creature. And then the dinosaur is kind of like photobombing the image in this one.
Okay.
So it's like 4 images like that, basically. And then I gave it an actual book cover that I had drawn. And I said, use this image as a reference for an anime drawing.
Okay.
It gave me a generated prompt again, and I reused the generated prompt. And it finally said, which, I mean, it kind of... I'm actually impressed that it picked up on this after 3 times. It said, it looks like you're referencing the images I generated. Since I can only edit images I created in previous turns, and those images are the latest ones I generated for you, I can help refine them. Please let me know if you would like me to adjust anything specific about the drawing of Kesh Marley in the Halloween Reprieve. Change colors, add details, modify composition. If you have a new request, blah, 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 just let me know.
Yeah.
So then I just tried writing Kesh Marley in the Halloween Reprieve. I wanted to see what it would do with that and see if it knew I was referencing something previous. And it said, I understand you're referring to Kesh Marley and the Halloween Reprieve by Justin Frazier, which we've been working with in previous prompts. The book cover you shared earlier depicted a character with goggles, a green outfit, a brown hat, hugging an orange pumpkin set against a purple background. Now, given how bad my artwork is, I'm actually impressed that it was able to glean all of that. So it said, since you brought up Kesh Marley, again, I assume you'd like to explore this further. Here's a brief summary of what we've done and some options for moving forward. So it's like really kind of like reverse hand-holding here, almost.
Yeah.
Previous work, we redrew the book cover. That actually didn't happen. So this is where it's you have to know a few things about Grok. Character details. Character has this and that. Options for next step. Refine the drawing. Create a new scene. Provide a description.
Enhance.
Yeah. Answer questions. I don't know why number 4 is answer questions when that's the least specific, but whatever.
Yeah.
So and then it gives me an example request I can give it, because it's obviously more human than me at this point. If you'd like a new image, you can say, draw Kesh Marley in an anime style, running from a ghost in a haunted forest with her goggles slipping off and her pumpkin under her arm. That's what it suggested to me. For now, since you mentioned the title, I'll generate a new image with a slightly different take. So it generated another image, and I finally said, how do I view the images you generated? And it said, I apologize for the confusion. As Grok 3, I generate images based on your prompts, but I don't have the capability to directly display or send the images through this text-based interface. It does. It did it 4 times before. It just can't if you actually specifically ask it to take something and draw something similar.
Yeah.
So it gave me this long list of things you have to do to view the images. And one of it was local generation, having an image generation tool like some compatible XAI or something.
Yeah.
Third-party tools that will generate the images using the prompts that it gives me. So Grok is telling me that it will generate prompts that I can put in another AI to draw things.
Yeah.
And it says I can continue to provide detailed prompts for you to use elsewhere for scenes, moods, yada yada. And then finally, I just wrote draw Cash Marley.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent you some of those images where it was like these really young brown-haired and orange-haired girls. They kind of all have the goggles and hats, and one of them's holding a pumpkin. Because of the ghostly background that I drew on it, it decided to put like cartoonish, stickery artwork of ghosts in the background in the moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all very, very childy looking characters.
Yeah.
So it then asked me if it wanted me to redraw them in Gothic manga style. So I said, okay, go ahead, do that. Yeah. And it went ahead and did that, and they were all still incredibly young looking and very similar to the images it gave me. So I was like, okay. I took one of the images that I thought looked kind of okay, and I said, use the bottom right image, but give her a ponytail and make her an adult. And it gave me 4 men holding a pumpkin looking angry. I mean, they were still cartoony drawings, but they were 4 anime dudes with ponytails, now wearing Cash Marley's hat, and all of them are holding pumpkins and looking at me like I did. Like, they're almost looking at me, accusing them of having gender-bent Cash Marley. With the same pink with the same pink, yellow, and purple ghosts in the background.
Yeah.
So, I think... Yeah, so it was really weird because some of the coloring started to get stranger and stranger as I went on.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really important here, but it really liked using this pink and blue color for these characters.
Yeah.
Now, what else is funny is despite the fact that I said in that first prompt to give her a ponytail and make her an adult, I got 4 men. But right after that, I said, give her orange hair and put her on a motorcycle. Because none of them had orange hair, despite the fact that, well, I guess it did think that it was brown. So yeah, my coloring was probably just bad.
Possibly.
I mean, she does have brown hair, but the cover kind of looks orangish. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it did know better than me. Anyway, it then turned Cash Marley into this amalgamation where. She's on a motorcycle, but holding a pumpkin instead of the handlebars in almost all of the images except the last one.
Yeah. And
she is now like very feminine of face, but very manly of body. And in one particular case, her left arm is grotesquely long.
Yes, that does happen sometimes.
Yeah, so I mean, we're just really commenting on how it can't quite get things right there, but essentially it's not very refined in the sense that it can generate easily what someone wants. And this is a big concern a lot of people have. This is why I'm not worried about it in art so much, because it's come a very long way, and it may have gotten better over the years, but I mean, 3 years ago I was getting it to produce images like this without too much trouble.
Yeah.
And I don't really see where anyone can get it to do exactly what they want. Like a lot of people have made comics and things using this, but you know, even if you're using like a very basic reference for it to go off of, it seems like it has a lot of trouble sticking to the concept that you present it with.
I mean, so I've played around with there's an AI website for creating images called Night Cafe, and I played around with that for a while, and it's very hard to. It can be very hard to get it to do the things that you want it to do, and like if you give it 15 different things in the prompt, it might do 7 of them or 10 of them, but then the other ones will be either missing or put in such a way that it's like nonsensical. There's definitely cases where that is where like it doesn't necessarily know which parts of the prompt are more important, and it has trouble mixing too many things together at once. I don't know.
Yeah, that is actually a big problem that it has, and you're going to get an example of that right now, actually. So,
All right.
the very next thing I did after messing around with what it does with images, I said generate a 3-paragraph Cash Marley story.
Okay.
I have to assume that a lot of the information that it got, I mean, you'll see that some of it was from previous conversations. I mean, there's Gelda shows up in here for some reason.
Yeah.
It's possible that the Halloween reference at the beginning here is from the pumpkin or from the Halloween Reprieve title.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at what this is. It says, on the eve of Halloween 2025, Cash Marley roared through the moonlit streets of Ravenwood on her sleek black motorcycle, the engine's growl cutting through the crisp autumn air. With her orange ponytail whipping in the wind and goggles shielding her eyes, she clutched a glowing pumpkin that pulsed with an eerie light, a relic she'd uncovered in the town's ancient cemetery. The Gothic town, steeped in shadows and whispered legends, seemed to pulse with life as the colorful ghosts, lime green, lavender, and sky blue, swirled around her, drawn to the pumpkin's mysterious energy. Now, right there, it's using its own ghosts that it created in the images above as part of the story.
Yeah. Sure.
As an adult adventurer, Cash had traded her childhood curiosity for a bold determination to unravel the secrets of the Halloween Reprieve, a prophecy hinting at a balance between the living and the spectral realm.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first paragraph. I got that far before I was like, oh my god, it's starting to write like a fanfic writer.
Mm-hmm.
Which, this may come as a shock to you, but the internet is absolutely poisoned with the amount of fan fiction that is out there, which means that a lot of its writing ability may be coming from that.
Which is terrifying, but possible.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually more possible than where it's getting most of its writing from being in actual literature, because, as I pointed out, a lot of it's behind a wall that it can't get to.
Yeah.
So, it goes on. The trouble began when a shadowy figure emerged from the fog ahead, its bat-like wings casting an ominous silhouette against the full moon. It was Gelda, the vampire siren from local lore. And this is where it really got mixed up. It got mixed up with the image that I sent it of Tammy. And it wrote, her robotic arm glinting as she raised it to blot Cash's path. Which doesn't make sense, but okay. The ghosts around Cash wailed, their playful demeanor turning frantic, as Gelda demanded the pumpkin, claiming it held the key to her lost voice. How was she able to claim that with her voice lost? I mean, I'm not trying to be too harsh on the AI here. I'm just pointing out that this is a pretty big flaw, and I admit that I made this own mistake in my editing. However, I did catch it.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I can't scan through this stuff as fast as the AI can. So, it continued by writing, a curse from her dual bites by vampire and werewolf. It's looking at the picture of Tammy Knitbar and getting all of its information about her Gelda from that. I don't know why. I don't know how that crossed over into it.
It must have made the association somehow.
Yeah, I really can't begin to figure out how. So, Cash never
because
won...
they were close to each other.
Yeah, but I don't really, unless there was something that connected them in a description it picked up from the book. I don't really.
Well, it hasn't read the book.
But it was able to. It had already been prompted about the book and was already able to look up any information that it had been able to get, such as reviews or descriptions I might have put elsewhere on the internet.
Sure.
So going on, Cash, never one to back down, revved her motorcycle and swerved, her green outfit fluttering like a cape. She knew the pumpkin's power was tied to her own destiny, and she wasn't about to let it fall into the hands of a spectral tyrant, especially one who hated grappling hooks as much as she did. I actually got a kick out of that.
Sure.
The picture of Tammy is just a list of things about her in the text, and one of them is that she hates grappling hooks.
Yeah.
So, now I don't know if you noticed this or not, but the lore that has been created here, despite the fact that it probably hasn't been able to see the text of any of the Cash Marley stuff. Oh, no, actually that is... No, it hasn't. Okay. Despite that, somehow it kind of has a similar story to Cash Marley with the ancient book, except now it's just a pumpkin instead.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting and coincidental. I mean, unless Grok is very good at not letting on that it can read through entire Substacks, because those stories are on my Substack, it doesn't seem like it really gets past the headlines, and you'll see that in a bit.
Yeah.
With a daring leap, Cash maneuvered her bike off a crumbling tombstone ramp. This is really fanfic stuff. Soaring over Erzgelda and landing with a skid that sent leaves and spectral mist flying, the ghosts cheered, their colors brightening as the pumpkin's glow intensified, revealing a hidden path leading to an old manor atop a hill. Inside, Cash hoped to find the answers to the reprieve, perhaps a way to free the ghosts or restore balance. As Erzgelda's frustrated shriek echoed behind her, Cash grinned, her orange hair catching the moonlight. This Halloween night was far from over, and with her wits, her ride, and her glowing guide, she was ready to face whatever gothic mysteries lay ahead. The mention of the manor there, that actually makes me think that somehow this thing had to have read the Cash Marley book, which I haven't published yet, starts with them visiting a haunted house and finding this book. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in any of the short stories that are actually online, but all of those stories are in places where theoretically Grok should have no trouble finding them. So if I did mention the manor in there, then it is capable of looking at full texts, because that wouldn't.
Well, either that or it just said this is a Halloween story, so haunted house sounds reasonable.
That can also be the case. See, we do have to account for the human error, like I said earlier.
Well, it's not even human error. You didn't ask it to. I mean, first off, it doesn't have copies of the stories to judge like whether there's canonical like problems with the continuity between its story that it's creating and the ones that you've already created. It probably isn't trying to do that.
Well, I only say that because it's a little bit strange how much it takes all the information from our conversation and makes an amalgamation of a story out of it. And so I was thinking that maybe that's also what it does with the information that it gets, but I'm not aware of.
Possibly, but
so who knows? But
yeah.
So it said, let me know if you'd like to expand on this story or adjust any details. At which point I said, no thanks, I'm testing your abilities. It responded to that with, fair enough, I'm glad to be your test subject. I've enjoyed flexing my capabilities, generating images, crafting stories, and adapting to your requests. As Grok 3 built by XAI, I'm designed to handle a variety of tasks from creative writing to visual prompts, and I'm continuously updated to keep up with the latest. If you've got more tests in mind, whether it's analyzing X posts, web searches, or diving into another creative challenge, feel free to throw them my way. What's next on your list? So, it kind of has almost this lighthearted tone to it, where it's crafting a personality as it talks to you.
Sure, I mean, a lot of them do that.
Which is
makes it easier for people to talk back to it.
Well, in a way, yes, and in another way, no. Because as we go on, it starts to use terms like vibe, so it's like very modern, culturally centric in the way it talks.
Sure, I mean, the people using it are mostly young people, right?
Yeah, but it's one of
the TikTokers and the whatnotters and such.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like the AI seems to always devolve into the same type of characteristics as you're talking to it. Take, for instance, after I told it that I'm testing it, almost every time it finished doing a task that I gave it going forward, it would mention something about, oh, feel free to keep testing me, or something like that. It had to do that. And the more I said things to it, the more it would add to this lexicon of task finishing proposals.
Okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Even if you weren't feeding into that prompt.
Right. So the next thing I did was I sent it that picture that my brother drew of me as a girl cosplaying Deedlit in very bad cosplay while drunk. So now you all know about that, and have fun sleeping tonight.
Oh no, I'm going to ask for you to send me copies of all these pictures so I can put them on the YouTube channel.
That okay, can do. But yeah, so I sent it this picture, and I told it, this is me drawn as a drunk female Deedlit cosplayer in a bad costume. I didn't give it anything else than that. I wanted to see if it needed me to say something, or if it wanted to have a conversation after that. And it said, "That's a fun and creative concept. Based on the image you've provided, it looks like you've drawn yourself as a female deedlit," which, of course, my brother drew it, not me. "From Record of Lodos War." It put that in parentheses. And it's funny because it simultaneously feels like, haha, here's me, Grok, showing off. But it also feels like, oh, I need to prove to you that I can look things up. So it's almost like Grok is bipolar, but with a humorous twist, depicting her as drunk in a poorly made costume. So it repeated to me what I told it.
Yeah.
The character has long blonde hair, which I can see in the image, so Grok doesn't really need to tell me that, but it doesn't know better than to say, oh, a human isn't going to know what this is.
Well, you didn't ask it a specific question, so it's just kind of riffing now at this point.
Yeah, it's looking for something to say, which is one of the things we talked about earlier that may or may not be a problem with it. I mean, it's
right.
It's not really a big problem per se. It's just something that, like I said, I started talking to it like it was a person to see what would happen. And this is not a person that I could have a conversation with for very long.
Well, it depends on what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's much more useful as a tool of like quickly gathering information I might need, hoping it's not a lie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely got something. I'm not saying that all this AI stuff is useless. I do think there's a lot of it that's just like, I don't understand the purpose of why we're doing this as a civilization. I don't, but I also don't think that it's like this doom scenario that everyone else is seeing, simply because of all of the stuff I'm observing here.
Sure. Well, the thing is, right, that like here's the one way I'm going to push back, right?
Yeah.
The thing about, having an AI generated whatchamacallit produce art or produce writing or whatever is that if the person who's doing the generation doesn't like what he or she gets, then another 100 similar things can be produced in a blink of an eye, as opposed to, an actual artist would have to go back and draw a new drawing and it would take a bunch of time kind of thing. I mean, there's an issue where, if you roll a die enough times, you'll get a 6, right?
Yeah.
And so, the possibility exists for a person to simply roll the dice enough times that they get, decent, that they get things that are good about as often or possibly more often than a actual skilled artist could produce them, right? That's the thing, is that, you have to sift through a lot of crap, but at the same time, you might get gems on at the same rate as a actual dedicated artist or writer.
Well, yeah, that is also an argument that I have made to people who, really have a problem with AI when we're discussing, well, is this going to stick around or is this going to vanish? What's going to happen with AI? I have brought up before that you have a tool that is actually good enough for when you need something serviceable, but you don't need perfection. So if you're a really good artist, you're probably not going to have to worry about anything because you will be much more accurate at giving people what it is they want than an AI. Yeah. But if you're doing so, like a lot of people are using AI to generate thumbnails for YouTube. So they don't need their thumbnail to be this precise image of a character doing this while holding this and standing on this with this setting. They can give it those prompts and have it produce 100 pictures and find one that's good enough for what they want to do. So in the sense that if you don't need anything, if you don't need top quality work done for you, or even, that's not even the best way to put it, because you'll get something high quality a lot of times. There might still be problems with arms being freakishly long or whatever, but you
multiple fingers, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you can get good things out of it, though. I mean, even like 5 years ago, people were getting good stuff out of this.
Yeah.
So it's not so much a case of this is stupid, you have no use for it, don't bother using it. It's a case of, what are we talking about here? Are people thinking that this is going to kill writing and art? Because even if this is something that becomes everyday use adopted by the majority of mankind, let's say you really like writing. I mean, it's like people who work on cars that don't need a car. People do things because they enjoy doing them. I see no reason to stop writing because a machine can crank out a story faster than me. Especially looking at the quality of the story. I mean,
sure. It's also funny that you should mention this because I was just working on something for one of my other channels, and I was reading Ludwig von Mises has a quote about this, and he talks about in Human Action he talks about the creative genius because he's talking about labor and like marginal labor and the disutility of labor, and he has a little subsection on quote unquote creative geniuses. He's like, the creative genius does not do these things for any particular like reason. He does them because he has to, because the act of not producing these things is painful, almost as painful as the act of producing them. But the act of producing them does at least end of the desire to produce them, kind of thing. I'm misquoting Mises very badly, but
I am familiar with the quote.
Yeah,
that is. That is exactly right, though. That's some people just they want to create something. It's built into most of humanity to want to do something.
Right.
Otherwise, boredom wouldn't exist. I mean, it could just be that it could just be a case of you're going to have a group of people that are fully capable of sitting in a machine for hours trying to create the right prompt to get the image they want, and that in its own way is similar to the person who sits down to draw a picture and just tries to get better and better at drawing until they can produce exactly what it is that they want, or close to, because you never really produce exactly what you want. Just like you can never really get exactly what you want out of an AI. But the difference is just
the same way you can never actually like write something or draw something that is photographically identical to what's inside your head.
Right. So let's move on here.
Okay.
It got a little weird next.
Okay.
I assumed that it was now capable of understanding that we were talking about things that had come before. So I let it write that whole story.
Yeah.
And then I wrote, generate a new image based on that. Can you generate an animated GIF? It did not answer my question, although it technically gave an answer by not producing an animated GIF.
Yeah.
What was weird is that it gave me 4 images of cats. In the first one, they're standing. They're like almost anthropomorphic, standing on their hind legs. They're all looking in different directions and smiling. It's kind. If I was the kind of person that could be creeped out by things like this, it would almost be creepy, just the way their eyes are looking in different directions. It's a very colorful picture. Like the ground is modeled with what looks like acrylic mixed paint of greens and yellows and reds, and the cats have some of the paint splashed on them. Okay. The second image is very similar cats with a slightly different, less detailed art style. However, there's 2 cats on the ground leaning forward on their legs but not quite touching the ground with their front legs. And then there's 4 more cats that are prominent in the image, but they're floating in the air for no discernible reason. The third image also has 3 cats floating in the air while 2 are on the ground. One of them looks like it's playing jacks with jacks that aren't there. So, and yes, I am going to have to give you these images. And then there's a final image where all of the cats have really derpy faces.
Okay.
And one of them, for no reason whatsoever, has one leg that is striped yellow and red when all of the other cats, including itself, the rest of itself, are just blue. So I don't know what was going on there.
It was hallucinating.
Grok, well, my suspicion is that when I wrote generate a new image based on that, I'm guessing that Grok thought I misspelled cat instead of that.
Oh, maybe.
That is the only thing that I can come up with for this.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Because that does not relate to the Cash Marley drivel that it churned out a moment ago.
Right.
Which, it's not... It wasn't a bad story if you were like I said, in middle school and jotting something down in a notebook.
First off, we have to give up on any chance of it understanding the continuity of like Erzgelda being a part of the Cash Marley world.
Yeah,
let's ignore that.
But it still reads like someone's deranged fan fiction. It's kind of like the child that wants to write a story about Spider-Man, and so he includes everything he likes about Spider-Man in the story, and then just ends it with a very simple, and then he put the bad guys in jail.
Right.
It's not quite that bad, actually. It's not badly written. It's just, it's not intellectually stimulating or satisfying in terms of reading.
No.
It's an okay action scene with a lot of action that is just like, oh, you're generating this based on what people think good action movies are, but are wrong about.
Mm-hmm.
So, having failed at getting it to create a picture that wasn't cats,
mm-hmm.
I wrote recreate the drunk deedlet picture I gave you. And it gave me 4 images where in the background is actual, it looks like actual images from conventions where the people are all blurred out.
Okay.
And then prominently in the front, there are 4 deedlets. The first one is, for some reason, holding what I'm assuming is a martini shaker, but it's full of yen coins, and she's holding it upside down and they're spilling out. And she's got like a tattered costume. It's not a bad costume, it's actually a good costume, but it's all tattered, and she looks a little tipsy.
Okay.
Second image, also tipsy. Her right hand is actually a left arm. She's holding what looks like a soda bottle with wire wrapped around it, and some yen coins are dribbling out of that as well, but inside the bottle is water, or soda, or something. Something clear, soda-ish.
A frothy mug of water with yen coins.
Yeah. The third image, she's actually holding what looks to be like either a bottle of wine or perhaps some Worcestershire sauce.
Okay.
In her left hand, her fingers are all messed up in this image.
Yeah.
AI still seems to be struggling with characters holding things.
Yeah.
So her left hand, she has I believe it's one of the tops of a thermos where you pour the soup in.
Yeah.
It is filled with what looks like either silver yen coins or possibly metallic colored condoms. I'm not sure what's going on there. And she's wearing the same outfit in all 4 images, which is kind of weird, because why did it bother generating 4 images if it couldn't really get anything different? They're all just woodland elf tattered clothing looking things.
Yeah.
The 4th image, the sleeve on her arm is, it looks like it tried to draw a full dress, but it said no, this needs to be tattered too, so it's just covering up to her elbow and it doesn't reach the rest of the dress.
I see.
This one, the third one, by the way,
it's called a detached sleeve. Watch some Toho.
Yeah, that's not what they were going for here.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, the third image has the derpiest face, like she belongs in that cat picture with this face. The 4th image is relatively okay. She's got a very like thin smile, a little bit cross-eyed, still blushing a bit in drunken fun.
Yeah.
There seems to be a breeze in all 3 of the last pictures.
Well, she is a wind elf or whatever.
Well, she's indoors at a convention.
Doesn't matter, wind elf.
Yeah. So she's got, I think 2, maybe 3 bottles here, but one of them is broken in her hand, and the other one is attached to the end of that one, or almost floating above it in the air.
Okay.
Both of them filled with gold yen coins. And the liquid is not pouring out of these ones. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Huh. Fun times.
So now I'm interested in exploring how much I can do with this using like anything of my personal nature. Because here I'm looking at this like it can't do anything with the image my brother gave it. My brother wins 100% in the regard of, can you produce for me something I want that is ridiculous? And yeah, I mean, it couldn't even. So the image my brother draw is actually a girl with black hair, but she's wearing a deedlit wig with blonde hair. It could not interpret that. I'm not going to bash it, of course, for that. I'm just going to point out that, there are still lots of limitations. Yeah. Those may get improved over time. They may not. But the point is, we went over it. It's a question of, what are the standards that you need to be able to do things. I can't really do much with these images other than show them to people and point out how funny they are.
Yeah.
The next thing I asked it was, do you know the VTuber Muppy Heingart? And
well, okay, so the Muppy Heingart thing is going to take a while, right?
Is it?
It might. Yeah, I think so.
It might or it might not, because we don't have to give any context to describe what's going on here.
But we could make this into a whole nother episode.
Do you want to? Because they're...
Absolutely.
Okay, well, then we'll do that then. Hopefully it will save all of this.
I mean, you should save it yourself. Screenshots and such.
Yeah, okay, so I'll get some screenshots then.
Yes, please do. Because, we should continue this with even more bizarre AI hijinks in the next episode.
Yeah, I got a bit too excited laughing at all of it at the beginning, so my throat kind of got a bit scratchy here. I'm having a bit of trouble.
Well, it's not just that. We're also a bit over time as well, so this is something we can definitely make into a slightly longer feature, because it is, I think, interesting as well.
All right, can do then. So having gotten through that, I need to ask you if you remember something. Did
Okay.
I read Ben 10 and the Dragon the last time we did the Japanese fairy tale thing?
No.
Okay, well, that's
Ben
good.
10?
Yes, it's Ben 10. Benten, Ben 10 and the Dragon, from Japanese folklore. So now you know where that show comes from.
Okay.
So this is going to be our folklore, Japanese folklore of the week. It's a very
All right,
short one.
go for it.
I figured I'd
Yes.
save this one because I knew we'd be talking about this for a while.
Let's go for it.
Ben 10 and the Dragon. In a certain cave there lived a formidable dragon which devoured the children of the village of Koshigoe. In the 6th century, Ben 10 was determined to put a stop to this monster's unseemly behavior. This is starting to sound like something written by an AI.
Mm-hmm.
And having caused a great earthquake, she hovered in the clouds over the cave where the dread dragon had taken up his abode. Ben 10 then descended from the clouds, entered the cavern, married the dragon, and was thus able through her good influence to put an end to the slaughter of little children. With the coming of Ben 10, there arose from the sea the famous island of Enoshima, which has remained to this day sacred to the goddess of the sea. So we have here a story of a dragon devouring children, the answer to which was to cause an earthquake, which it doesn't even say that did anything to the dragon, but Ben 10 causes an earthquake, hovers over the cave, and then I guess dive bombs into the cave and force marries the dragon. And then it just says through her good influence it put an end to the slaughter. So it's just like I picture it more as like she shows up, it's like yep, we're married now, and the dragon just like sort of goes along with it, and then it's like she becomes Chi-Chi and just like harangues the dragon to the point where it's just like, fine, I won't eat you. God, just I'm going to work. Leave me alone.
It also kind of makes me think of like what if Bowser just wins in Mario?
Yeah, actually. It's like, is this really what I wanted all this time?
Oh God.
And then like right then, Peach bursts in through a door with an extra 100 pounds on her and starts shouting at him to take out the garbage.
Yeah. Something like that.
Bowser's like, I'm in the middle of an oil change right now. It can wait 5 minutes. You said you were going to take the garbage. That, by the way, the most 80s storyline that you could possibly have on syndicated television right there.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like right out of one of those TV shows.
Yeah, Married with Children or something.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think Al Bundy ever did an oil change.
No, he probably didn't. If he did, it was when no one was looking.
Right, exactly.
He sat on a couch a lot.
He did do that.
I still wonder to this day why that show was so amazing, and yet it was. If you think about what it is, it should have been really bad, but it was very funny.
Yeah, I mean, it had good comedic writing, I guess. I don't know. I never was a huge watcher of it, but I've seen occasional bits and pieces, the episode here and there, and they were humorous.
Well,
usually,
unless you want to do another fade out, I'll keep this one brief. There's an episode of Married with Children where Peg decides that she wants to remodel the bathroom to make it more suitable to her feminine side.
Okay.
And it's this fuzzy pink bathroom. Everything is pastels and soft shades, and there's these little trays of the little soap seashell things and everything.
Yes.
And every single day that Al Bundy has to deal with this bathroom, he hates it more and more and more, and he just can't take it, but it's this one thing that Peg wants.
Yeah.
He finally snaps. And he comes home with a gigantic bag, just a brown paper bag that kind of like, You used to get them a lot. You still get them if you go to like a Chipotle for your food or a McDonald's.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
But everyone used to use these gigantic brown paper bags, like the ones that they would have at grocery stores.
Right.
And he sits down at his table very slowly, this angry look building on his face, and he opens this bag, reaches in, and pulls out this length of tinfoil mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts to unwrap it, and he starts to smile. This big grin covers his face, and it's a burrito, a gigantic burrito. And as he starts to bite into it, Bad to the Bone plays. And at this point, the viewer has probably figured out, oh, he's about to bomb that bathroom. And it was amazing because it was the only show that I ever watched as a kid where it's like, there was a lot of toilet humor in it. Yeah. But it was orchestrated toilet humor like that, where it's like, no, I'm done with this toilet. I'm ending this.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people don't like that show for some reason, but I think more people did than didn't that actually saw it. It took a really bad concept and made very funny jokes out of it.
Yeah.
Because at the time, everyone was doing the opposite. It's just like, oh, here's the dad and here's the family, and it's either the dad is this moral center or he's just an idiot. But in this case, he was no moral center whatsoever, and he was still kind of an idiot, but he was the idiot that was just like, had just accepted that this is how life had to be, and there was no use in even resisting it anymore, and he would just win these occasional victories here or there.
Yeah.
He's like, he was like the person we all hated in high school, and yet when you watch him in a television show in this setting, it's just like, it's kind of lovable, and you kind of love it when he does get the occasional victory.
Yeah, I mean, it was usually well earned.
Yeah.
All right, we'll cut it there then.
No, we will not cut it there. We're not going to end on Married with Children, much as I love Married with Children.
We're not.
We are going to end on the note of there's just a lot that AI can do at the moment, but I don't think that AI can do as much as people think it is, to the point that people are having these full-fledged movements against what is essentially machinery in a gigantic room that has to be paid for somehow. And it could very well be that if nobody decides to use any of this for anything, it won't last. So it might not. This might all be something that doesn't matter 10 years from now. 20 years from now, we could have a technology that doesn't even require the server space and the gigantic cooling that is required for the amount of servers that run this stuff. We could all have this in our pockets for all we know, and it could be 10 times better than it is now. Mm-hmm. Although I don't know how you would actually multiply that concept, but there it is.
Yeah. Okay.
If you grok what I'm putting out there.
If you smell what the grok is cooking?
I like yours better. Let's end it on that.
All right. Have a good week, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Wordy Pair Podcast. Our passion is all things writing, world building, and getting into the weird and wonderful world of fiction. We hope you enjoyed our unique takes. If you did, make sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to get your weekly dose of writing weirdness. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hit us up on Twitter. For Rudy, it's @Rudolph_Cone. And for Justin, @Ninja Mouse Chew. See you next time on the Wordy Pair Podcast.